You picked up your phone this morning before you made a decision to. Not because something was waiting. You do not actually know what was waiting. You checked because the pull was there, and your hand moved before your brain caught up. That is not a habit. That is a schedule. And it was designed by people who understood exactly how to make it feel irresistible. Phenomenon. You have felt this. You set the phone down with the intention of leaving it there. 2 minutes later, maybe 3, it is back in your hand. You did not decide to pick it up. You are standing in your kitchen, reading something you did not plan to read. And the moment you notice what you are doing, it is already done. This is not a character flaw. It is not weak willpower. People who believe it is willpower spend their energy fighting the wrong battle, and they lose, reliably, because willpower runs on glucose and attention, and both are finite. The pull you are experiencing has a mechanical name. It is a reinforcement schedule. Specifically, it is the same class of schedule that behavioral researchers discovered produces the most persistent, resistant to extinction behavior ever documented in any organism tested. And the companies building your apps know this, not as a side effect, as a design specification. Nir Eyal's book Hooked lays the engineering framework out in plain language. Trigger, action, variable reward, investment. It is a product blueprint, and you are the product being shaped. Mechanism. In 1938, B.F. Skinner published The Behavior of Organisms and gave us the framework that still governs how every habit-forming app in your pocket was built. Skinner was working with pigeons, pressing levers for food pellets. He mapped 4 reinforcement schedules: fixed ratio, fixed interval, variable ratio, variable interval, and found something that should have been kept in a laboratory, but instead became a product manual. Variable ratio reinforcement produces behavior that is almost impossible to extinguish. Here's what that means for you. When the reward comes after a fixed, predictable number of actions, the behavior is easy to stop. You know what you are getting and when. But when the reward comes unpredictably, after 2 pulls or 20 or 200, something different happens in your brain. You cannot stop, because stopping means you might have stopped just before the reward was coming. The pigeon does not stop pressing the lever. Neither do you. Shaw and colleagues, writing in Psychological Reports in 1989, demonstrated this same variable ratio persistence in humans operating under monetary reinforcement schedules. The behavior was not unique to pigeons or to gambling. It was a property of the schedule itself, applied to any organism, including you, right now. Nir Eyal's Hooked is not a book about addiction. It is a book written for product designers, for the people building the systems you use every day. Eyal describes a 4-stage cycle: trigger, action, variable reward, investment. Read that sequence carefully, because you live inside it. The trigger is the notification, a sound, a badge, a number. Your action is the tap, the scroll, the swipe, the pull to refresh. The variable reward is what you find when you get there. Sometimes something that genuinely matters. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes something that makes you feel worse than before you looked. That variability is not a bug. It is the mechanism. And the investment, the photos you post, the follows you accumulate, the playlists you build, the messages you send, that is what makes leaving expensive. Every investment you make increases the cost of stopping. Eyal drew this framework from behavioral science deliberately, and he was transparent about it. The book cites Skinner. It cites the psychology of variable rewards. It describes the goal, to make the product a default behavior, something users do without conscious thought. Not because users are weak, because the schedule is stronger than deliberate choice when the two compete on even ground. The hook is not a metaphor. It is an engineering specification. Here is the neuroscience underneath the schedule, and this is where it stops being abstract. In 2023, Clark and colleagues published research in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence, examining reward variability and addictive potential. Their finding maps directly to what Skinner documented with levers. The brain's dopamine response is stronger to unpredictable rewards than to predictable ones. Not slightly stronger, meaningfully stronger. Your brain releases more dopamine in anticipation of a variable reward than it does when the reward is certain. This means the scroll itself, the act of not yet knowing, is neurologically rewarding. You are getting a dopamine response from the uncertainty before you see what is there. The platform has engineered a state where the seeking behavior is its own reward, independent of what you find. This is why you can scroll for 40 minutes and feel worse at the end than at the beginning. The reward was never the content. The reward was the pull. Wang and Wang, in a 2025 paper published in the journal Behavioral Sciences, documented how social media platforms specifically exploit emotional reinforcement, the combination of social validation signals and unpredictable timing, to extend session length far beyond what users consciously intend. You did not plan to spend that time. The schedule planned it for you. If you want to stop being the person this works on, hit subscribe. We decode a new manipulation system every week, and knowing it is the only defense that actually holds. Trap. Infinite scroll did not exist because content demanded it. It was invented by Asa Raskin in 2006 as an interface solution, a way to eliminate the natural stopping point that a page break creates. He has since said publicly that he regrets it. The stopping point was friction. Friction is what gives your conscious brain time to ask whether you want to keep going. Infinite scroll removed that question from the interface entirely. What replaced it is a variable ratio schedule with no natural terminus. Every downward swipe is a lever pull. The next piece of content might be the one that matters, might be genuinely useful, might make you feel something real, or it might be nothing. You do not know until you pull, and so you pull. The hooked model calls this the variable reward phase, and AI is explicit. The variability must be preserved. If users could predict what they would find, the compulsion would weaken. The unpredictability is load-bearing. There is no reward at the bottom of the feed because there is no bottom. The schedule has no terminal condition. You cannot win. You cannot complete it. You can only stop, and stopping feels like leaving before the good part, which is exactly how the schedule is designed to feel. The friction that used to stop you was not a flaw in the design. It was a protection that was deliberately removed. The notification is the most precisely engineered component in the system. It is not alerting you to something important. It was not calibrated to importance. It was calibrated to pull rate. The goal of a notification is to get you to pick up the phone. Everything that happens after that is secondary. The timing of notifications is not random, but it is designed to feel unpredictable to you. Platforms test notification timing against engagement metrics in real time. They know which intervals produce the highest open rates, and they optimize toward them. What you experience as a ping at a moment that felt oddly relevant is a system that has been watching your engagement patterns long enough to know when your resistance is lowest. Hurlburt and colleagues, writing in Psychological Reports in 1980, studied slot machine play under concurrent variable ratio and random ratio reinforcement, and found that even simulated, non-monetary schedules produced persistent pull behavior. The reward did not need to be real money. The schedule itself was sufficient. Your notification is the same architecture. It does not need to deliver something genuinely useful to produce the behavior of checking. It only needs to arrive unpredictably enough that you cannot predict when the next one is coming, so you keep checking. Not because you decided to, because the schedule makes checking feel like the rational response to uncertainty. The like button is not a feature. It is a reinforcement token, and its power comes entirely from its unpredictability. When you post something, a photo, a thought, an observation, you do not know what will happen next. Sometimes a lot of people respond quickly. Sometimes almost no one does, and then hours later the numbers shift. Sometimes a post you worked on gets nothing, and something you posted without thinking gets an outsized response. That variability is not a reflection of quality or truth. It is the variable ratio schedule applied to your sense of social belonging. Wang and Wang's 2025 research in behavioral sciences is specific on this point. The emotional reinforcement in social media is not just about the reward itself, but about the timing and unpredictability of the social signal. You are not checking to see your like count. You are pulling the lever. The number that comes back is just the symbol of the reward. The real reward is the momentary resolution of the uncertainty. And then the uncertainty resets. This is why the like count was hidden on Instagram for a period and then largely restored. It was not about mental health. It was about engagement. The visible number is part of the schedule. Without it, the lever pull has no feedback, and the feedback is what sustains the pulling. The social validation loop is not a side effect of connection. It is the product. You are maintaining a Skinnerian schedule every time you post and wait. Defense. The schedule works because it is frictionless. Your defense is friction, deliberate, structural, built into the physical and temporal architecture of how you access the system. Not willpower, not intention, friction. Here is the audit. It has 3 components. Apply them in order. First, notification audit. Go into your phone's settings right now, not later, now, and turn off every notification that does not represent a real-time communication from a specific human being who needs a response. Not app badges, not like alerts, not algorithmic updates dressed as messages. Every notification that survives the audit should be one that would matter if it arrived at 2 in the morning. Everything else is a lever pull you did not agree to. Second, session friction. The hooked model works because the trigger is instant. The app opens in under a second. The feed is there before you decide it to be. Add physical distance. Move social apps off your home screen. Add a folder, then a second folder inside the first. Every tap you add between intention and feed is a moment where your prefrontal cortex can ask whether you meant to be here. 2 extra taps is the difference between an automatic behavior and a chosen one. Third, replacement scheduling. The variable ratio schedule fills time that feels empty. Give that time a fixed ratio alternative, a specific thing you do at a specific time with a known outcome, not better content. Friction plus a fixed alternative is the only combination that reliably interrupts the schedule. You are not fighting willpower. You are redesigning the environment the schedule runs in. The companies who built these systems are not evil. They are rational actors who discovered a mechanism that works, and they optimize toward it. Skinner found the variable ratio schedule in a laboratory. Eyal turned it into a product manual, and the engineers who implemented it were solving a business problem, engagement, using the most powerful tool behavioral science had ever documented. You are not weak for falling into it. You are up against a schedule that defeats deliberate choice when the conditions are right, and the conditions were deliberately made right. The pigeon does not blame itself for pressing the lever, but you have something the pigeon does not. You can see the mechanism, and once you can name a system, you can decide what you want from it rather than letting it decide for you. The friction audit is not about using your phone less. It is about making every use a choice. The difference between a habit and a trap is agency. You have enough information now to be the one who designs the schedule you live inside, instead of living inside one that was designed for you. If this changed how you think about your phone, explore That Sale Price Was Never Real. Link is on screen now. And if you have not already, hit subscribe. We publish every Wednesday.